What's up, sports maniacs? I'm Justin Walters, and this is All Sorts of Sports. The first story that we have today comes from the Ball family. Yes, there's never a dull moment when it comes to the Ball family. But this week in the drama that is the Ball family, we find out that Lavar Ball has actually pulled LiAngelo Ball out of UCLA. So the question is, why did Lavar Ball do this? And the truth of the matter is that Lavar Ball was upset with the punishment that LiAngelo received for the incident that happened in China. If you don't know about the incident that happened with LiAngelo Ball in China, go ahead and check out one of my previous episodes. We actually covered the entire story there. The punishment that LiAngelo received from UCLA was that he was suspended indefinitely. Now, people are saying that it looks like LiAngelo might have been able to return at the end of this month, which would be the beginning of conference play, or it might have actually been a little later than that. But ultimately, Lavar Ball decided that he had had enough. And he actually said in a statement, "I'm going to make him way better for the draft than UCLA ever could have." And I hate to tell you this, Lavar, but LiAngelo Ball wasn't going to get drafted whether he was at UCLA, and he's definitely not going to get drafted now. And now I understand that LiAngelo Ball led the team in steals and not even playing a game, which is highly impressive. But the truth of the matter is that LiAngelo Ball he's only a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. And when you talk to a lot of the NBA GMs and NBA scouts, they'll say that LiAngelo Ball wasn't even on their radar, not even for like a guy to fill in for like the practice squad. So then Lavar Ball also stated, "We get back over here and the consequences were even stiffer than China. So basically, they're in jail here." Look, Lavar, I'm not sure if you know what jail is like, but I'm pretty sure that you don't get to like walk downtown LA or go buy the freshest new clothes. I'm sorry, I meant steal. Or go out partying with your friends. Pretty sure you don't get to do that in jail. So for you to say that they're basically in jail, that's probably not correct. And then we have UCLA coach Steve Alford, who had this to say about LiAngelo Ball leaving the team. "We learned today of LiAngelo Ball's intention to withdraw from UCLA. We respect the decision he and his family have made, and we wish him all the best in the future." And in my honest opinion, I feel as though this is a huge weight that is taken off of UCLA's shoulders. They no longer have to deal with the Ball family. And now you're probably wondering, well, hold on a second. Wait, what about the youngest Ball brother, LaMelo, who is already committed to UCLA? As of right now, Lavar Ball, because we know these guys don't speak for themselves, Lavar Ball has said that LaMelo Ball, who is ESPN's 7th ranked player in the class of 2019, still plans to attend UCLA in 2 years. However, I would bet good money that this is the end of the relationship between UCLA and the Ball family. And the reason is that LaMelo Ball may not even be eligible to play in the NCAA because he has a signature shoe. And when the NCAA was asked about LaMelo Ball having his signature shoe and possibly making money from the shoe, they had this to say. "Generally speaking, a college athlete or prospect paid for use of their athletic reputation or ability risk their future eligibility in that sport." So no, he's not eligible. And as for LiAngelo Ball, he has said that he is looking to still play basketball and still try and get into the NBA draft. He's just not sure where he's going to play for the rest of the year or until the draft comes. Although I did hear that China was looking for a few players. And the next thing I want to go over is the college football playoff has officially been set. And the 4 teams that made the playoff this year were Clemson, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alabama. And I personally believe that the committee who picks the teams for the playoff, they hit the nail on the head with this one. In other words, I feel that they got it right. Now, I know a lot of people are really upset that Ohio State didn't get into the playoff because they did end up beating Wisconsin for the Big Ten championship. But I feel that it was right for the committee not to put Ohio State in the playoff. And here's why. There is a huge asterisk on Ohio State's season. They lost to Iowa by 30 points. Now, do you honestly believe that teams like Clemson, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alabama are going to lose to Iowa by 30 points? No, that's not happening. And I have this to ask of the Ohio State fans. Do you know why you made it into the playoff last year? Because Penn State was demolished by Michigan. So this is the same thing that happened last year, except for Ohio State is now on the other side of it. And so now we have people saying that your conference championship doesn't matter when it comes to making the playoff, which is absolutely ridiculous. Winning your conference championship does matter in the fact that it adds significantly to your resume when the committee is deciding what teams to put in the playoff. But what people need to understand is that conference championships are not everything. Look, we have some conferences that have multiple teams that are better than the top team in another conference. And plus, since the college football playoff has started, there have been 16 teams that have made it to the playoff. 14 of those teams have won their conference championship. So yes, it does matter if you win your conference championship, but it is a season altogether, and it is the 4 best teams in college football. So I'm sorry, Ohio State fans, but the committee got it right. And the last story I want to talk about today is the drama that has been surrounding the New York Giants as of this past week. So, in order to get the full story, let's start from the beginning. Last week, the New York Giants head coach Ben McAdoo decided to bench Eli Manning and start Geno Smith instead. Now, why did he do this? Well, there are multiple reasons. The Giants have only won 2 games. The offense was obviously not clicking. But ultimately, this was a last effort to save Ben McAdoo's job. And with Geno Smith at quarterback, they did still end up losing that game to bring the Giants record to 2-10. The benching of Eli Manning, obviously there was a lot of outcry from Giants fans about the benching of Eli Manning. This is a guy who started 210 games consecutively, and his streak just ended because Ben McAdoo decided to bench him.
The benching of Eli Manning even had some of the current NFL players kind of talking about it. One particular example would be Tom Brady, who said that it's a very unfortunate situation. Well, all that outcry appeared to have rattled the ownership of the Giants, as they ended up firing both the head coach Ben McAdoo and their general manager Jerry Resse. And for the Giants organization to fire a coach, especially during the season, is extremely unlike this organization. In fact, the last time that this happened was back in 1976. And to a lot of people, the firing of these two appeared, it kind of came off as out of the blue. But I promise you, it was not out of the blue. Teams aren't just going to fire their head coach and their GM during a season out of the blue. I can promise you that the Giants ownership has been thinking about this for months now. And they finally decided that enough is enough. So where do the Giants go from here? Well, it's very obvious that they already are and need to continue to revamp the entire organization. And the first step to that long process is finding a GM. You have to find the correct GM that you think can really lead this franchise into the rebuilding year and have it become the team that you want it to become. And once you find that GM, then that's when you start looking at head coaches. You don't want to start thinking about who you might want as a head coach until you already have your GM planned out. Because in order to have a successful rebuild, you have to have a GM and a head coach that have a lot of chemistry and they cooperate together. Once you find that right GM, then it's time to start calling head coaches. And if I'm the Giants, I'm calling all the big names in football. I'm calling big named head coaches that were in the past. I'm even calling big time head coaches right now and seeing if they want a switch at scenery. I'm getting a hold of the top offensive and defensive coordinators for teams, and I'm even digging into college football coaches. Just going after some of the biggest names in football.
And now, I don't know what you guys think, but my first call is going to Nick Saban of Alabama. I realize that it is highly unlikely that you're going to tear away Nick Saban from his Alabama, like that's like his baby. I realize that he has said before he doesn't want to go into the NFL. He likes the college game. But it's worth a shot. You gotta try. And if you're the Giants, you're just asking, why not? Why not try it? But ideally, if you're the Giants, you want to try to have a GM and a head coach hired by the time the draft comes around. It's very likely that the Giants are going to have the second pick in the draft, so it's imperative that they get a young player that they feel is going to be a core, like a centerpiece to this whole rebuilding scheme. I personally believe that the Giants need to go and try and draft a quarterback with the number 2 pick. If Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen end up both going into the draft, you are now in the Darnold-Rosen sweepstakes. You're going to get one of those 2 guys. They're both going to be exceptional NFL players. Plus, you also have Baker Mayfield. I personally am not the biggest fan of due to attitude problems. I worry that he's the next Johnny Manziel. But he is a very good player and possibly a very high ceiling. So I think that it is time for the Giants to clear house, start with a new GM, a new head coach, and a new quarterback. So do I think that Eli Manning's career is over? No, I don't think that. I think that he will end up playing for another team next season. I personally would really like to see him maybe give Jacksonville a shot. They have a really, really good defense. You have a running game. I think Eli would do really well in that system. It's a nice little town in Florida, nice and warm. I think Jacksonville would be a good fit. So overall, I think that it was a good idea for the Giants to fire both McAdoo and Resse, and I think it's time to part ways with Eli Manning, and the organization just needs a whole new makeover. And that is going to do it for today's show of All Sorts of Sports. Thank you for watching. If you like what I'm doing here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep up to date on all the sporting news. Also, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the Ben McAdoo, Jerry Resse firing, and what your thoughts are on should the Giants continue to play Eli Manning, should they stick with him, or should they try to find a new quarterback for their future? Let me know your thoughts on any of the stories that we discussed today, and those will be read during the community episode later on in the week. Also, down in the description below, I will post links to my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where I'm constantly putting out information daily on sports stories that are going on throughout the week. So if you're a big sports fan, you want to kind of try and keep more up to date on everything that's going on in the sports world, go ahead and follow those. And that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you later.
I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.